So what if the people around you don't support your fitness goals? I dealt with this growing up. Growing up in a Latino family, there was so many distractions, so many quick fixes, and a lot of temptation, to say the least, with very good food. So in this episode, I wanted to go back to my childhood, as well as highlight the 5 things that I personally did to help myself keep a clear mind and become successful with my fitness. So if that interests you, stay tuned for the show, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the Built Bodies podcast. My name is Alan Jaramillo, and in this special episode 23, we're going to be going over what if the people around you don't support your fitness goals. And I wanted to dive deep into this because growing up in a Latino family, I was very much used to this. There were a lot of temptations. There was a lot of things that changed my entire, idea about food. Normally growing up, I would always have minimum 2 plates of food for dinner. I would go to bed full, but not full, like my stomach felt like it was going to explode. And this conditioning process really made it hard for me when I was becoming an adult to have a good relationship with food, okay? And in the Latino culture, it's often seen as like rude to say no to certain foods. When you're going to your aunt's house or your uncle's house, etc., it's very hard to say no. And with that, being said, it's often founded within good reason. I guess it's good manners, but it really fucks with your head growing up. And that's what I want to speak to today, because I know that I broke free. I was able to, but I speak to men every single week that haven't been able to break through in their 20s, 30s, 40s. So this can impact pretty much every man, no matter what age you are. How you look at food is super important, and as well as how you are able to keep focus during your fitness routine is really crucial. So I want to go over the 5 things that I personally did to keep a clear mind. And we're going to start with number 1, which is joining places where the behavior you seek is considered normal. Now, for some people, this could be a gym. For others, it could be a cycling studio. For others, it could be a rock climbing gym or joining a rec league or something. But the biggest thing here is that if you're starting from zero, any activity is better than nothing. So starting with a sport that maybe you used to play or you're interested in playing, that's a place where you can join in on what's considered the normal behavior there. So in your family right now, if you're stuck in this bubble where the behavior of exercising, the behavior of looking after yourself, the behavior of not taking a quick fix is, if that's not considered normal behavior, it's going to be really hard for anyone in your family to support whatever you're doing. So what I think would be a better thing, and this is what I did, is when I joined a gym, I instantly became friends with people who were working out already. Okay. It was normal behavior. So when I went there, I didn't feel like I was sticking out like a sore thumb. I felt like, oh, this is where I belong. Right. But with my family, I felt like I was sticking out like a sore thumb. So it made it incredibly difficult for me to have confidence when I was around my family. But when I was with the boys at the gym and we were getting after it, making gains, asking questions, doing research, that's where I felt the most confident, because it was just fueling the person that I really wanted to be. But this could also be leaving your current gym and going to a more advanced gym. I've also been in this situation too. Growing up, I used to go to this country club style gym where it was a little bit more relaxed. There wasn't a lot of mirrors there, and the average member was like 55 to 65. And the problem with this is that not only do these gyms have a lot of gossip around them, but there's a lot of adults who don't like kids running around. And there's also, not a lot of great machines there naturally, which I understand from a business perspective why they would do that, but it doesn't really help you if you're really trying to grow. So to take it one step further, I joined a different gym where I was around a different group of people. There was no gossip. And from there, it was a much better ability for me to really build from there. And you might be in the situation right now where you're outgrowing your current gym, and just know that where you decide to spend most of your time really does impact, the type of person you want to be. So if you feel like your growth as a person and from a mental aspect is being impacted by your surroundings at that gym, then it's going to be in your best interest to go somewhere else where maybe the competition's a little bit higher. Maybe people take it more serious. Maybe there's less drama. That's what I personally recommend for you if you want to make it that much easier. Another story that I have is that, joining a cycling studio here in Houston. I'm a part of this one cycling studio called Ride, and they do a very good job of this. When you go into Ride, there is a goal of trying to be good enough to sit in the first row. In the first row, there's always people who are killing it, okay? These people are extremely athletic. They know all the choreography and everything. And this basically creates kind of like a North Star when you go to that gym. So there is like a type of intensity that you want to eventually be able to work up to. So it gives you kind of like a roadmap, and it makes it motivating for you to continue showing up so that way you can become proficient at this. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is another good example too. You start off as a white belt and you see the roadmap in front of you because you roll with some black belts, some blue belts, some brown belts, and that paints it for you that makes it that much easier, I should say, for you to continue showing up to excel. You can see the future there. If you can't see that future with your given surroundings, it's time for you to change that. Number 2 is to not put yourself in a position to receive negative feedback. There's constructive criticism and then there's negativity. You have to be able to discern which one you're receiving, and never ask someone in your family that you don't want their life advice. I'm going to say that again. Whether it's fitness or in my personal experience, career, I can't speak too much on career because everyone does their own thing. I am not saying that I know much about that. I'm building my own career right now, but I know I'm successful with fitness. I know a lot about fitness. I might not know a lot about other stuff, but I know a shit ton about fitness. So with that being said, one of the biggest things that I realized is that I would always ask my parents for advice, and then eventually they weren't able to help me. They were not in the right state of mind to give me proper advice on nutrition, but they're my parents, right? Maybe they know, right? And it wasn't until I realized that I can't ask people that I don't personally look up to in that aspect anymore. And this is going to translate to a lot of other areas, like I said, but I started to change who I was asking questions to. And that ultimately made such a big fucking difference for me because I hired a coach eventually, and that's where I went to ask all of the important questions. And that's where I got a lot of great feedback and constructive criticism, and it was positive. It really helped my life. But there's other people in your life, friends and family included, that are only going to judge you. And if that is the type of group that you have around you, I highly recommend that you try and go a different route and you start slowly kind of just separating yourself, okay? Over the course of your life, you'll probably just separate from them entirely, and that's just how life works. People grow apart. It's not sad. It just is what it is. But ultimately, being able to pick and choose who you ask questions to will really make or break your ability to stay on this path, because if you're exposed to negativity, if you're exposed to parents, friends, family, always questioning your every move, how do you think that's going to feel? It's going to impact your ability to feel confident. It's going to impact your ability to learn from your lessons. You learn from your mistakes. It's going to impact your ability to take proper action and live with it. So that's one thing that I think that a lot of people are missing when it comes to working on their fitness journey, is asking the right questions to people who can actually help them and not their mom, their dad, or other people who just don't necessarily understand what you really want out of your life. Number 3 is going to be to have a way to center yourself every morning. I can't tell you how crucial this is. And especially if you're in an environment right now which doesn't support your fitness goals, the only thing that you have really is the private time in the morning. And what I used to do, an exercise that I did, is I wrote my top 3 goals down every day for years. Okay, I did this all the time. And the reason why is because anything that you do after you leave that bedroom door is probably going to be chaotic, whether it's your job, whether it's friends and family influencing you. You have to make sure that your mind's already bulletproofed before you walk out the door, because every single thing is going to pull you in every which direction. So by writing down your goals, you already have a sense of direction. You know which way you want to go. So that's going to influence your first action, your second action, your third action after you leave your room in the morning. And the second thing that I did growing up is I worked out in the morning, and I even did this in high school too, before class started. And the reason I did that is because I always found it very rewarding to work out in the morning, not because it made me better than other people and because other people didn't. If you've ever been to the gym at 5 or 6 a.m., there's a shit ton of people there, okay? People just do this regularly. But what it did is it allowed me to make the first big action of my day something that is actually good for my body and actually good for my health. So when I left the gym in the morning, I'm like, damn, I already did something for myself that my future self is going to thank me for. And that makes me feel really fucking good. So if you want to make it easier for you to say no to other things pulling you in different directions, or just like to block out negativity, bulletproofing your mind in the morning by writing down what you want and going and doing something for yourself in the morning that really makes you feel proud of yourself is going to make it that much easier to say no to a lot of the things distracting you. Number 4 is going to be to change your environment. In 2020, I moved from Texas with about $4,500 in my pocket, and I was 20 years old, or I might have been 21. Either way, I moved down here. I didn't really have much of a plan, but I knew that I wanted to take advantage of an opportunity, and I knew that there were people in this specific area of Houston that I could get around that would help me make me just a better person. Okay, I knew where I wanted to take my career. I knew that I wanted to up-level my fitness journey, and if I never moved down here, I would have never won my first bodybuilding show. If I didn't move down here, I wouldn't be surrounded by people who are constantly changing other people's lives through health and fitness. And that's what I wanted to be around. I wanted that to be the normal behavior around here, so that way it could be my normal behavior. And this applies to the very first point that I mentioned. And I've done this, I've led by example on this, okay? I totally moved across the country from Philadelphia area down to Texas, only because I wanted to be around certain people. And not so that I could use them, but so that I could just be a part of that normal behavior down here. And I think that this directly applies to you in your own personal life, because there might be things around your current environment or people in your current environment that make it very difficult for you to evolve as a person. And although it's bittersweet to say goodbye to these people, ultimately you got to put yourself first. And I think that you do know that truly deep down. If we think about, drug addicts, for example, if you put them back with their old drug friends and back into a house where they aren't able to stay away from certain drugs, how much harder do you think it's going to be for them to not, go back to that life if they're currently exposed to it? And I always say this analogy with my clients, when they have a lot of things in their environment that doesn't serve them. I said, what would your life be like if you lived with me and my dog, right? Like, you would follow everything to a T, right? There's not a lot of snacks in my drawers here that you can snack on. We go to bed fairly early in this house, so you're not going to stay up late because it's considered odd behavior, right? So in terms of the environment, it really does make or break your transformation, and the only person that can really change that is you. Number 5 is going to be to educate those around you really care for and lead by example. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where people ask you for help. And eventually people are going to start asking you questions. They're going to ask how you did it. And it's up to you to just educate those people. Okay. And then it'll also affect how they act now, because when you become a dominant force, people want to also partake in that. And I'll give you an example. When I go on vacations with my friends and family, it's considered normal behavior to go to the gym. And it's not that I'm better or whatever. I'm not trying to say that. But since I am going with or without them, it makes it that much easier for them to tag along. I've seen this when I've been to Mexico recently with my girlfriend's family. I've also seen this with going to visit my buddies in New Jersey to go to the Jersey Shore. Neither one of them have been to the gym recently. And when I go, it's now considered, okay, like, Alan, when are we lifting, right? And that is just something that fucking makes my heart like explode. I love that. And the reason why I love that is because it just makes sense. When you are not comfortable going to do something on your own and you have someone who's just so confident in that direction, they know what they're doing, it makes it that much easier for you to just go with them and not second guess it. And it lowers the barrier to entry for that specific activity, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's going to ride your bike, whether it's something else like a new sport that you're trying, you will change people's ability to partake in the activity too. And that's why I left this as the last one, because it is the most important. The reason why you have to put your fitness first is not only because your friends and family are rooting for you, but because, on the other side of that, there's going to be a lot of people who need your help. And I'm not saying that you need to become a coach or anything like that, but naturally, you're going to inspire some people who grew up with you, some people who watched you grow up in your family, and they're going to come to you for help. And that's going to be your way of basically like a rippling effect. So that you can positively impact their life. And you don't need to be a fitness coach, like I said. This is simply you being such a dominant force and going after what you want and changing your life through fitness, that it's going to, reverberate into a lot of other areas of your life and a lot of other friend groups and family members, etc. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Built Bodies podcast. Thank you so much for spending this 17 minutes with me or so. If you have good things to say about the podcast, please leave a 5-star review on Spotify. And if you have any further questions or any constructive criticism or feedback, you can drop it in the YouTube comments. I'll talk to you on the next one, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.